I've discovered in life a few principles. And that is that when you want to literally create anything in your life, anything, you in fact have to have main character energy. Because oftentimes the things that we want to accomplish, what we really feel is fear, and so therefore I don't want to do it. I can't do it, it's not possible. The reason why it's so hard is because what? The habit hasn't been formed. The neurons haven't connected. I want you to write down, literally write down, the key thing you want to do that you're afraid of. If you want to accomplish something, you need to create a program for it. Break the feeling.
What's going on? Woo! My LinkedIn learners, so good to have you here and see you here. Look, we got people from all over the place recording and seeing. How are you all? Put in the chat. I see Ann, I see Cassidy, I see other people. Let me know where you're dialing from, and also what are you sipping? What are you sipping on? What are you sipping on this morning? Would be great to know as well as we get started here. I'm so excited, my friends. This is the inaugural LinkedIn Live, and I'm here for it. Let me know what kind of energy you bring into this conversation today in the chat. I can see your chat. My team can see your chat as well, and letting me know who is saying, who is doing what out there. It is so good to be here, my friends. Today, we're going to be talking about humor. And I decided that this inaugural session, LinkedIn Live experience, will be about one of my absolute favorite topics, and that is humor. And this is why I think you're all here. Now, for those of you who are here or who will watch this later, you probably know me in the world in some shape or form. But if you do not know who I am, hello and welcome to the Brooklyn verse. I just made that up because it sounds good. And so my name is Brooklyn, and I am the Chief Happiness Officer here at the Happiness Consulting Company. And I am a keynote speaker, coach, and trainer in everything to do with the science of happiness. I have been studying the science of happiness in positive psychology for the last decade, probably more, sort of on my own. But definitely I started doing this because, believe it or not, it all came from comedy. My background was in comedy. I started doing comedy in my early 20s. I was walking through my neighborhood in Portland, Maine, where I was living. I was exploring the city, and I walked by this little shop, and it said, "The Comedy Connection." And I was like, what? Hey, Roger, good to see you. The Comedy Connection. I'm like, this sounds amazing. I walked in. Now, at that point, I had been in corporate training, and I had been a trainer, and I sat in this show, and I had never been to a comedy show before. And I got to tell you, one of the cool things about that experience was that I was watching these folks do their sets, and I thought, wait a minute, people get paid for this? Stop. Sign me up. Literally. So that's what I did. I approached the club owner. I said, look, I'm interested in this. I kind of do this stuff when I'm doing training. So how can I learn? And he said, sure enough, there's a class in a couple of weeks. You should join. And I've actually stayed in touch with the people of that cohort. And it was an amazing experience. And I went on to do my own comedy shows and so on. And as I was learning comedy and also training, I thought, these tools are applicable to anybody, anywhere, who wants to improve creativity, connection, and communication. Man, why don't more people know about this tool of comedy? And so I started teaching this, and I had one of my first keynotes, and I started talking about humor in the workplace. And oftentimes I was met with a sort of an interesting response when we said humor in the workplace. Sometimes it's like, oh, wait, hold on, what do you mean? And, are the jokes proper and so on? But no, I said, no. There's another thing I want to teach. It's not, this is how to be a comedian, although I can teach you. It's how to use the tools of humor. So in the chat, let me know right now, are you a humorous person? I bet you are. This is why you're here. People are naturally humorous. I probably hear. Are you feel like you're a humorous person in the chat? Let me know. 5 for yes and 1 for I'm not really humorous. I don't think I have a sense of humor. Let us know. But here's the thing: we all have a sense of humor. And what I've discovered through my research in the science of happiness and positive psychology is that laughter is the biggest, the best instant connection that people can have with each other is when they laugh together, right? So teams that laugh together, play together, stay together. And this is the fun part that we're going to be talking about today, is really understanding what I call the humor effect. So one of the things that, as we get into it, that's super interesting is that there's this survey that I do, and I actually will give you access to all this stuff. I got some cool little gifts for you at the end of the session, where people can assess their top values. There's this thing called VIA strengths, because it says 6, maybe sometimes even when people don't understand how or what. Yes, because it's your own. It shifts your energy. So that's right. And you are so funny. You're very funny. Here's the thing is that funny people, we just flock together, right? So here's the interesting thing. In this assessment, I put it out there into the world. And I notice that, so this assessment is designed to teach you your top signature values. That's right. Your top signature values. What your top signature values let you know is, hey, anything that I do in my life, at work, at home, wherever, when I'm doing them with my top signature values in mind, I'm happier. I feel like I have more value. I feel like I'm making more of a contribution. Well, after administering thousands, and I kid you not, I have thousands of these assessments, I have discovered that people who rank like me, where humor is their top value, those folks in a keynote, in a workshop, anywhere I do this, will inevitably find me and ask me this question. How can I demonstrate my humor value more at work? I feel like I have to hide it. Oh, and that it's rough when you have to hide your sense of humor. Now, of course, in the workplace, we have to be mindful. We'll talk a little bit about that. But essentially, humor is one of the most powerful tools for connection, collaboration, and communication. And when we engage in our humorous way of being, essentially it becomes a ripple effect with our team, our family, even strangers on the street. Humor is one of the most powerful tools for connection and for a sense of belonging. Yet I find that people who rank high in humor have a difficult time expressing this at work. So I'm going to ask you, what's your biggest challenge facing you right now in your workspace, in your work environment? Is it you need, lack of energy, feeling a little bit, unresourceful, perhaps is facing a challenge or a change, right? What's going on for you in your workspace? And I'm noticing too that this is not in super real time, so I'm going to slow down so that I can see your comments here as well. Yeah, I love it. Somebody says here, I think I'm hilarious, but seriously here to come get some inspo, how to bring more humor to my team. Yeah, make work more fun, especially during stress we all deal with. Absolutely. Yes, Bishoy. Oh, hey, that's right. All right, my friend. So here's the thing, and I'm going to teach you how to do that. I'm going to teach you how to bring it as a leader to your team, because it's powerful, especially during this time of the year, especially during any time of the year, really, but especially when the years are changing, new demands, especially in the environments of any team, sales, marketing, HR, it doesn't matter. Any team is dealing with changes and stress that are happening, right? Yeah. You're absolutely right. Constant layoffs, shifts in the market, shift in the workplace. Man, there's so much going on. With that, I will say, humor is not designed to minimize the situation. That's not the intent. It's not going to take away the gravity of a situation. What it does do is that it increases your level of at least brain power to think about or to look at the situation from a different perspective. That's what it does. And the power of humor is actually internal. It's a mental skill, and it's energy. It opens people up to a better sense of energy to do more things, and to be able to think differently. Those are the benefits of humor. And so when we look at humor, I'm not talking about the traditional comedy style. I will tell you though that comedians can be humorous, and some comedians are not so much humorous; they're just insightful, or they have observational skills. Comedy, the difference between comedy and humor, comedy is the art form of using particular tools that we have in the comedy space to reframe how people view a particular situation, which is when I was studying comedy, I thought, boy, people at work could use this. How can you reframe a situation from, what is to what it could be? And what a comedian is actually a master of, they are a master of reframing and redirecting. Reframing and redirecting. Right now on Netflix, at the time of this recording, Dave Chappelle just came out with a new special. Now, he's great, and a lot of people love him. I've never been particularly attracted to his style of comedy. However, in this particular show, he talks about how he owns a town, basically. He owns a town. Like, he talks about it, he goes, right, he owns a town. Probably 96, 98% of the people in that whole arena can't relate to owning a town. However, he reframes it for people to recognize how uncommon it would be for a person in his socioeconomic usual status, just from the makeup of who he is, that would own a town. Kind of like, how do you like them apples? What do you think about that? Right? And through it, there's incredible amount of humor, but it's also, he's tapping into the truth and reality of our current society. So that's what comedians do. Comedians elevate the thinking, and the best way to get people to think differently is to laugh, is to find humor. So I'm not asking you to be a comedian, but comedians use particular skills. And when I'm watching his show, I'm seeing what he's doing. They use particular skills, from storytelling to misdirection to double entendres. They use a variation of tools to help them to bring the laughter. But you don't have to do that, my friends. That's the good news is you don't have to be a comedian to tap into your own humor, because you already have access to it. Okay. So one of the things that oftentimes in workspaces we don't get fully right is that, people will have, pizza parties and donut socials. I'm making that part of it. I don't know if this donut social is a real thing, but whatever. You bring people together around food and some sort of social engagement. And that's cool because it helps people come together. But oftentimes it feels maybe a little forced, or like you have to do it, like you have to go to this party, you have to go. And so there's a disconnect between the social experience and how people are feeling. So as a leader, one of the key things, humor can be turned into a performance tool by noticing literally how to adapt to it and how to use it in your favor. And so one of the things you want to do as a leader is that you want to call out perhaps what's happening and kind of demystify the situation. So I'll take a real serious situation when, for example, there's change in the organization and people are sensing it. As a leader, you can call out not the situation, but perhaps even the tension, right? Donuts and discussions, yes, right? Donuts and discussions, how about that? Yeah, you know what? You can even turn that into a humor situation, like, what kind of donuts people like, or how is this situation? I just thought of this. How is this situation like a donut? You can take the girl out of the comedy club, but you can't take the comedy out of the girl. It just is what it is. So, what kind of donuts? I can just imagine what kind of donuts kind of resemble this situation, whatever. The key is that as a leader, you can call out the situation and find the humor in it, not to diminish the gravity, but to allow people to flex their thinking, to open up their thinking, and to be able to contribute. I find too, when I'm working with leaders, is that if they don't call it out, or they just kind of sort of leave it by sort of underneath the carpet, they don't really talk about it, people are festering. And what's happening when people are dealing with change is so important, my friends. When change is happening, it's impacting our neurological systems, our neurology. And so the moment people see change equals threat in the brain. Change equals threat. And so because there's threat, people immediately have doubt, fear, worry. They start to retract their ability to contribute. And that's not what you want. So here's a couple of things to do, my friends, and I'll give you this three things to do as a leader, or even as a teammate, to get humor more engaged, or to engage with humor in your teams. Number one, literally is to read the room. There's times when humor makes sense and times when humor doesn't. So be able to read the room. When I was doing comedy and even when I do keynotes and I use a lot of humor in my keynotes, I will watch the room. I will see who's there. I will mingle because I wanted to get to know the energy of the room. This is what humor does. Humor shifts energy. And that's what you want as a leader to do is you want to shift the energy that the room is experiencing. So if the room is down, you want to shift the energy and a humorous commentary. Again, lighthearted fun, not poking humor at other people, but rather maybe at the situation. Okay. So number one is read the room. Number two is apply the humor. So if you already know you're going to go into a meeting that is challenging, is kind of perhaps a little bit, is going to get a little bit heated, bring some energy to it, some humorous energy. So for example, share, a fun little video ahead of time, maybe some cat videos, some baby laughing. This is even better because if you can get people laughing before the discussion, it reduces the level of anxiety, stress, doubt, fear, and worry people have. So it basically helps to stabilize our neurology so we don't see the conversation as a threat. I hope this is landing for you. So what you want to do as leader, first of all, read the room. If people are just like grimacing, which could be happening, is lighten it up, brace a little bit lighthearted humor. And so again, you can reach out to me. I'll give you some ideas, but essentially you want to be able to bring some lightheartedness to the conversation first. Second, apply the humor. So know the room. And third, and this is so important. When people laugh, make a connection. Connect with people, right? And if you see somebody laughing, is like John gets it, right? You crack a joke or whatever, like John gets it. Or who has a dad, a really good dad jokes. I mean, there's some really good dad jokes out there. Who has one? Oh, John, you have one. It's awesome. Making the connection. So the third thing is when you laugh, make a connection. Because at the end of this whole experience of life, my friends, here's what we want as humans. We all have a strong desire to belong. From cradle to grave, we all have a desire to belong. This is not, a policy thing. This is not a movement. Belonging is a human need for connection. And the fastest, easiest way to feel that connection is through laughter. And humor does it. So you don't have to be a comedian, my friend. You don't have to be a comedian to do that. But laughter really does do the trick. And I got to tell you, right now, as we're nearing our time together, my friends, I can't believe I said 20 minutes. That's it. I said 20 minutes. And we're going to do 20 minutes. I'm going to put a QR code here. If you are in your laptop or your desktop, you can click a picture of the QR code. I have tons of goodies in there for you. Including, I'm going to include a guide, a humor effect guide for you to access. It'll actually be a little bit later. My team is putting that together and it'll be there a little bit later. But you also have access to a tool that I think is fantastic. You don't have to be a comedian, but imagine that you had an inner comedian trying to come out, inner comic. Well, guess what? I put together a course. I usually sell it for, I don't know, $15, $20. It is for free, available to you because you came to this session. If you go to that QR code, you will find the link to the course. It is so much fun. I put together this course with absolute heart and soul to help you how to use humor and how to access it, how to start to notice how to be a humor hound. And I'll leave you with this last bit of story. About a decade ago, when I started thinking about teaching humor, I did a session with a group of mental health workers. They were, it's a whole association, and we had this little breakout. I didn't know, I wasn't doing keynotes, I was doing mostly breakouts at the time. And I showed up to this event. And they gave me, I don't know, like 30 people. We had 3 sessions, about 30 people. And then after the session was done, we'd do another one. That first group had such a blast doing what I teach in that course. They couldn't stand it. They didn't want to leave. Next door to me, I had a yoga instructor who said, is there any way for you to keep the ruckus down? I wanted to, but I couldn't because the people were going nuts. And so they left the room. The next group comes in. They go, no, we don't want to go to any more of the other breakouts. It's too much work. It's too much mental work. I want to come here. We couldn't stop listening, people laughing. We wanted to come here. Friends, the third session, they had to open up. It was one of those conference rooms where they had the wall is like a foldable. They had to open up the conference room. 70 people showed up and more kept coming in, standing room only, because they wanted to learn why people were laughing so much. It was such a ruckus. They were all learning to laugh. And they were using their own life story to laugh. My friends, humor and laughter is available to all of us. Humor is a fuel for success. Humor helps your brain open up to incredible ideas when you laugh. Laughter is a remedy to so many things. So number one, as a leader, read the room, notice what's going on, bring the humor, and then make a connection through laughter. You don't have to make them laugh, but humor will help people laugh. My friends, humor is not fluff. It's fuel. If you want to know more, if you want to bring me to your team, you want to have, even a 15-minute Brooklyn boost, you have the QR code, reach out to me. I'll be happy to come share some of these insights. If you're looking for a keynote speaker for your next event, well, guess what? Here I am. I am accessible via that QR code on LinkedIn. You can send me a DM, or you can also connect with my team through my website. The whole point is I'm here to help you rise, to elevate your greatness, to create future, and to create a future in which you, my friend, are impacting other people by the joy, the laughter, and the happiness that you bring. I can't wait to see you next time. Okay, I'm going to take a quick gander here. I'm going to read some of the comments. Oh my gosh, this is so good. This is so good, my friends. I can't wait to see you next time. All right, take care.